So I'm gonna be a full-time illustrator in less than 2 months. Gotta figure that out. I want to give a little bit of context, not like my whole backstory, but okay, so Risk It Design has been a legit LLC since January of 2018. So we are technically a little over 2 years old, but Risk It Design first became an idea after I finished college, which was in the spring of 2017. So like today is 3 years since that idea was conceived, 2 years since we became like a legit business, and we're doing it. Here is the obligatory disclaimer that everything that I talk about is for me personally as a 23-year-old trying to live in Hawaii, and my business is freelance illustration, and I'm literally not a professional in anything, and probably all of this will change by the time I actually go full-time, because this is just a plan and I don't know if the plan is gonna be good, but it's my plan. So owning my own business. Do you want to say hi? So owning my own business was not something that I knew I wanted to do. I mean, I had always worked for small local businesses in high school and in college, and I was really inspired by the creative communities that totally thrive in Hawaii, and I'm so grateful that our communities here are so supportive and lively, but I didn't know that it was something I wanted to do. I was artistic growing up, and I kept that skill, but it was actually Johnny who convinced me to try to start selling my artwork after I finished college, and I fell into post-college limbo that everyone seems to experience, and you don't know what to do. And so I did, and it was weird because shortly after I had a friend who was starting her own marketing business and actually got me my first logo job. And it was after that experience that I realized, one, the potential of the money that I could be making, and two, doing something that I genuinely enjoyed and could make money off of it. And so that was what got the ball rolling in the spring of 2017. So fast forwarding all of the hardships and challenges and everything that I learned in the last 2 to 3 years, I decided to do the thing which is, I think, the goal of every creative, but also the most feared thing, which is to go all in and do it full time. So yeah, with less than 2 months left before this transition happens for me, I knew that I had to do a lot of planning. I knew this was going to be a critical time for me, and I figured I would just share it with you. So if it helps you, that's great. And if you learn something, that's great. But if it doesn't apply to you at all, that's great. Okay, so I've broken everything down that I needed to go over into 4 main sections: organization, finances, a game plan, and investing. Let's get to it. Okay. So, organization. I've basically become the boss of myself. I call all the shots, I make the schedules, I get the projects, and like everything else in between. Basically, as an entrepreneur, you wear all of the hats. And I know people say like, oh, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, and that's total BS. I like to reference these 2 art pieces that I feel truly captures the life of a creative entrepreneur, because I've also heard people say when you own a business, it tends to own you. And I feel like when it's something in a field that you're so passionate about, you definitely will put in way more hours than you would at a job where you work for someone else. And so with that being said, I've learned that it's important to set boundaries and to also genuinely kind of treat it like a job. For me personally, I work best with a schedule. I know everyone has different systems that they like to do, but I love planners, calendars, checklists, sticky notes, notepads, stationery. So for me, a messy space is a messy mind, and I 100% admit that I am not the cleanest person out there. This is why I have Johnny. He is the tidiest person in the world, and I'm so grateful for him. But for me, what that means is that if I'm not taking care of the little tasks, let alone like the big ones, then I know no one else will, because I am a one-person business. Yes, like I can get Johnny and friends and family to help me with some things, but overall, I'm gonna be by myself running this. So I've learned that it's easier to set systems in place to build good habits. And I know that Rowena Sai has a really good, or she has a lot of videos about this. I know that she kind of went viral with one of her videos covering the topic of systems and goals. And I think that was really helpful, because this applies to all the things that you have to do to run a business, which is like accounting, bookkeeping, management, inventory, shipping, packaging, deadlines, contracts, emails, invoices, and everything in between. So for me personally, I have Excel spreadsheets that I update at least monthly with my expenses and my incomes, and they're all categorized as well, so it's easier to file taxes when that time comes around. I also keep a categorized binder to keep track of all of the receipts, and although I say monthly, if I can remember to do it in the moment and track all of my transactions, then that would be a lot better. For things like keeping track of my orders, shipping, tracking, inventory count, and all of that, I use Squarespace for my website, and if they want to sponsor me someday, that'd be so cool. But honestly, it is really easy to use, and it helps me keep track of everything so I don't have to worry about it. It's almost like having an assistant running my website. And I'm so grateful because my website is operating at a very manageable pace. Like, I'm not getting hundreds of orders a week. I'm not even getting like 50 orders a week. And so I have a couple days in the week that I've designated just to dealing with fulfilling orders, packaging them, and shipping them. Whereas I know in the future, if things pick up more, then I probably would have to batch the orders better. As far as schedules go, I'm pretty analog. I like doing pen and paper for things like that. I have a lot of planners and notebooks and journals for that kind of stuff. I personally like a weekly spread planner, and then I also keep a monthly calendar somewhere in the room so I have an overview look of the month, and I can keep track of like bigger projects that I need to be aware of and plan for. And Sean, Furry Little Peach, who I'm like a huge fan of, she actually just released a really good video on her productivity hacks, which are very similar to the way that I function, and so I highly recommend watching her video because it's very organized and well put together. Also, in regards to scheduling, I know for me, to protect my sanity and my personal relationships, I need to schedule in breaks. If not, I will just work all through the week. And Johnny is someone who actually helps me implement a clock out time. In my first couple of years of running this business, we would just pull all-nighters, and that's not something that I ever used to do. But like I said, when you're in a creative endeavor, you like to just give your all, and that's not healthy. And so Johnny would tell me, if I go upstairs into the studio to get some work done, he would tell me to come downstairs by 10:30. Being that I'm not full-time right now, and 4 days out of the week I am working still, I can't figure out my full-time weekly work schedule right now, but I do want to designate certain days for certain tasks and see if that will work well for me. Like, Mondays and Thursdays are for shipping orders, maybe Wednesdays are for Patreon and admin stuff. I don't know, but for now, what I do is I just keep a big to-do list, like the long-term list, and I kind of break it up into the days of the week and just adjust accordingly. It's basically, for me, as long as I have it written somewhere, I'll stay accountable to it, because I also have a selective memory. So if I just write it down, we can figure it out. Okay. Okay. I hate that finances are taboo, because although money doesn't buy you happiness, it does buy you options, and it does, at the end of the day, pay your bills. So we got to talk about it. And I'm going to be as honest and raw as I think is appropriate, because I want you to fully understand my journey here. And I knew with this plan I would have to do a full audit on my money as well as our money, me and Johnny's. But anyway, I know some people say it's important to have at least 3 months of living expenses saved up before going full time and taking this leap of faith. I know some people think you should have like 6 months to a year's worth. For me, I had saved up about 4 months of living expenses. I know that I still have 2 more months before I go full time, and my goal for myself is to save at least 5 months of savings, because I literally like spent a whole month of savings on business stuff that I need, like restocking inventory, getting office and shipping supplies, and other business things that I need now, like a PO box. So yeah, I'm gonna work my way back up and then hopefully make more money, or enough to have an additional month of savings. If you don't know how to calculate this number for yourself, you can write down all of the bills and expenses that you have to pay every single month. And most of these numbers don't usually change either. It's things like rent, your electric bill, internet bill, car insurance and registration, cell phone bill, things like that. And then you also want to write down your other expenses, which are things that you will likely spend money on in the month, but maybe you don't have to. And so those are other things that you can kind of work your budget around. Maybe there's things that you can cut corners on this list. It's things like food, gas if you don't need to be driving around, and shopping. And basically you want to round up these numbers as well. After I add these two expense totals together, I add a couple of $100 on top of that, just for either emergency, or it ends up becoming my savings fund. When we're talking finances, it's better to overestimate your expenses and underestimate your income. That way there is a nice big fluff in between for safety. Another expense that I haven't figured out just yet is my salary, like what I'm gonna pay myself, because I know honestly in the beginning, for a while, all the money that I make in my business is gonna go back into funding it. And so down the line, I want to figure out a percentage amount that I want to pay myself, which would end up going into my savings account and pretty much be my retirement fund. But for now, I have no idea what I'm going to do for that, so we'll just disregard it. So that number of my combined expenses, this is my baseline. Now that I know how much I need to make every month in order to survive, now I can look at my income streams and where my money is coming from. For my business, I have a very diversified income, which I think is really crucial for creative businesses, especially because the income is not consistent. So basically, the more ways that you have money flowing in, the safer you can feel. For Risk of Design, I have 4 different streams of income right now. That is online sales through my website and my Etsy shop, which I still have open. I wholesale to other retail stores on the island. I have my Patreon, and I also do commission or client work. I won't spend too much time going into details about this because it definitely varies from business to business, artist to artist, but also so do the numbers. But for me, I can look over the last 2 years of my business and kind of calculate averages of what I've made from each category and create goals for each category based on those numbers. And so this helps me figure out that if I'm lacking in one area, maybe I need to push a sale, or maybe I need to offer a special this month, so that way I do hit my quota and get my baseline. That leads me into my third point of having a game plan. So referencing back to my short-term and long-term lists, I think it's important to have a few really big goals. It could be financial or a project that you really want to do. And basically it's to have something to work towards, so you're not remaining stagnant and you're always motivated to work rather than, just... Other than those big overarching goals, I tend to have monthly goals. Maybe there will be like a 3-month goal, but I know that it should remain flexible, and sometimes I can't think that far ahead. So one big goal and maybe like a monthly goal. I think it's super important to be proactive rather than reactive, because before, selling my art was something that I did for fun on the side when I had free time or I had a random creative burst of energy. But now I do have a quota. I do have my financial baseline, which is my survival. So this is why I need to have a plan. I need to have goals and projects lined up so that way I can survive. So looking at a calendar year and going over my trends from the last couple of years, I can pinpoint which are my busiest and my driest months. And knowing that my income is not consistent and being aware of that, I can plan around it. And with a pandemic happening right now, all of that kind of goes out the window and we're all starting from scratch. So just having awareness will also give you peace of mind and to just like have additional safety plans. This is why I said it's important to plan ahead and be proactive rather than reacting to certain seasons or dry periods or trends that are happening all of a sudden, because you might not have enough product or the right product or even the energy to produce something new, and it'll already be too late. A super general overview of what my game plan looks like for me is to have an Instagram flash sale and shop update once a month with new products, to offer a digital commission special once a month if I have time, to be in communication with reaching out to retailers, my current ones, to see if they want new products or if they want to collaborate, as well as potentially getting new retail shops to hold my stuff to expand my wholesaling, to continue building my online audience because social media has been the ultimate form of marketing for me. I think Instagram is so powerful, and now potentially reaching onto YouTube, and to keep updating my ideas and project lists so that way there's always something to work on. Okay, last point. Let's go. Okay, so investing. Not like in stocks, but in ourselves and in relationships. Because I understand that that will take you so much farther. All of the jobs that I've ever had, the clients I've received, and the majority of the customers that I have were through friends, family, and word of mouth. And I definitely think it's just important to take care of those who have taken care of you. Take care of you. And especially being in a place like Hawaii where it's so small and everyone knows everyone, that could be beneficial or not beneficial to you if you burn bridges, but everyone knows everyone. And for the most part, I think we're all interested in sharing because we know that our communities and our resources are limited. But you can't help others without helping yourself first, so I have a couple points. It's important to stay educated. Not being in school is not an excuse to continue learning something because the world is constantly changing. And I feel the reason why some businesses fail is because they aren't keeping up with the times, because it's a non-stop journey. And so I read books, listen to podcasts, I see what other creatives are doing, and I adapt. I also allow people to pour into me. It's great to have friends who are in similar fields as you so you can share experiences and you can pick each other's brains and inspire each other and lift each other up. And we know that we don't know it all. So look for people who can mentor you on your weak points and then pass it forward and mentor people on the points that you're strong at. My second point is to take care of yourself. This is mentally, emotionally, physically. I feel like artists have this reputation of being a hunchbacked vampire hermit that survives solely off of coffee and has bad eyesight and carpal tunnel. I know for me, if I'm not in a good mental or emotional state, I can't create good work. And there's no point in creating work if it's like half-assed, basically. And going back to the whole idea of being full-time and not setting enough boundaries, you might just work to the bone, but it doesn't mean that you're creating good art. Also physically, because we can work from home, we might just be sitting at a desk the whole time. And for me, I'll forget to eat meals because I'm so into my work. And it isn't healthy. And so, like I said, it's important to almost treat it like a normal job where you have lunch breaks, you have normal breaks. As someone who has also had scoliosis surgery, I constantly have back pain, and being at a desk does not help that. And so I would love to get back to a point where I can budget in massage sessions, but being that is, even though I do think it's an important health service, it is somewhat of a luxury as well. And I know that there's things that I could be doing at home for free. And so I need to get back into my routine of scheduling yoga during my week, but just being aware of things like that and giving your body a break when it needs it. Listen to your body. Another tip that I've heard before moving on is that drink more water, because oftentimes when you have low energy, it's because you're dehydrated. The third point that I made about investing in yourself was to redefine yourself, which kind of sounds weird, but basically it takes a lot of confidence to do something like this that is untraditional, risky, and unstable. What I learned for me during this transition was that I was not good at explaining what Riskit Design was. I was not communicating properly what my business is, what my products and services are, especially to my family. Looking at all the things that I just went over and what it takes to run your own business, I think I felt like it was impossible to describe what it is that I do, and so I kind of just downplayed it when people asked me what it is that I do. You guys know that I'm a big fan of Fran, and I reached out to her explaining that I was going to transition to being full-time, and I asked for some advice, and she said that I need to change my language. She didn't even know that this was an issue that I had, but it was something that she also experienced when she was transitioning to being a full-time illustrator. What she explained is that she also didn't know how to properly explain her business. To the normal person, it doesn't make sense that you can create a living off of selling stickers, which is, I think, what happened to me. When I reached out to like my intermediate circle of family members, they would ask like how my craft fairs were going, which made me realize that they didn't understand the full scale of what Riskit Design was and why I'm able to create a living income off of it. So after thinking about that response that I got from Fran, I kind of wrote out what it is that Riskit Design is, and being able to explain that in a clear and concise way that also makes sense to the normal person who maybe isn't familiar with the creative industry. But almost having that description rehearsed will help me move forward, not only marketing myself as a business, as a small creative, as a service, but it'll also help me explain it to people who don't understand that being an artist is a legitimate career. If you made it this far, thank you. Please comment if you learned something or if this helped you at all, and also let me know if you have any questions or if you want me to elaborate on anything that I went over. I can almost guarantee, like I said, that majority of this is probably going to change once I go full-time and I actually figure out what works for me, and so there will likely be an updated video, a couple months after I go full-time. If you'd like to know and see more about what goes on behind the scenes and more of the details of things that I went over, please support me on Patreon. Even just for the $1 tier, you get access to all of my exclusive online content, which includes a lot of that behind the scenes stuff. And I do talk a lot about the first-hand nitty-gritty details that it takes to run this business. And so if that's something you're if that is something that you're interested in, I would suggest checking out my Patreon. And also, if you like discounts and monthly care packages and gifts like stickers and prints, then take a look at any of the $5 to $30 tiers that I have there as well. And it also helps me survive as a freelance illustrator. Other than that, of course, you can find me on Instagram, and you can shop any of my products on my website and also see my very outdated portfolio there. Good luck to all of you creatives out there who are doing the hustle, doing the grind. It's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding. I know you already know that, and I'm rooting for you. Just sending you big cups of coffee, big glasses of wine, and virtual hugs.